This is the Dyson Debates YouTube channel and Spotify. I'll probably be only uploading this on YouTube. Because Mason will be out for a while due to his thing in up north. I will be posting hopefully regularly, like weekly, hopefully. Um, just my own stuff here. I own the account anyway. I run the editing as well. And today I decided to do a book review of I have this up here just to help me out when I'm going through my thing. It's the book is called Better to Never Have Been by David Benatar. He through the intro, he imposed that question. That was his base question. Um okay, let me get right into the video. Okay, so um basically imposed the question. So like what this is implying is that when one is born, they are already brought like without a doubt they're gonna have pain in their life, which is his stance. By the way, I do not agree with any of his beliefs. I'm not saying I agree with his beliefs. This is just one of my first books that I read. This is from the library, so I couldn't really keep the book. I wish I did though. So, but this is one of my first sort of philosophy books that I've read of his. Um, this was published by Oxford University. David Benatar is a he's very well rewarded in that category, and yet this might seem boring to most people due to for the fact of not being with my partner, and also um not being like not playing a board game because you can't really play a board game by myself. Maybe in the future I'll extend to video games. That might be a possibility. I don't know. Um. Anyway, let's get straight into it again. Imagine here. Imagine someone could choose whether you would ever exist. Would creating your life be doing you a favor? Most people immediately say yes, but this philosopher, I would call myself a philosopher, David Benatar argues that bringing anyone into existence is always a harm. So basically, what this book runs through, like I said, is that upon birth, um, upon existence, one is always being brought a serious harm, which I don't, which is true. But he also goes into the fact of um, being brought into existence. You are prospered through a good life, and also we can't really measure good lives and bad lives because it's so relative to other people. Some say it's like, oh, you have the most money, and others are kind of materialist, so money wise, and also others can be more like, oh, like my life is good because I'm happy. Um, and others are just like, my life is bad because so many bad stuff happens to me. I can't control it. Um, my stance on this before we start, I think that your life is really based on good or bad on how you react to stuff. Like I kind of went over with this with Mason on one of the videos, but we said that like let's say let's say example, I'm like cut off a team of some sorts, and when I'm cut off, it's like really bad. But like, of course, it's a bad thing. But it's how I react to it, which makes me an optimist or a negative person. I don't know really the opposite word for Optimist is. Um, I feel like the way that you react to stuff determines how you enjoy your life, and I relatively um react to stuff well. So I think I react to stuff pretty well, which is why I'm an optimist, I would say. But others might say different about me, but you know yourself the most. No one can know you the most except for yourself. Like, trust me. Well, not saying trust me. This is like, I actually have an example. Um, like the Japanese, I don't know what actually like this is from. I don't know if it was Taoism or something, or sorry, Taoism. I don't know if it was them or not, but it was like you show three faces to the world. One is to strangers, one is to your friends, family, your lover, and one is to yourself. Only you will know your truly self. Let's say to the public. Let's say to the public, like you're kind of like friendly. Um, you're friendly. You're more conserved. You're more. Um, I would say you're relatively more friendly in the public, and you're more like mature in a way with your friends or with your family relationships. You can be more of yourself on another level. You can be into your comfort zone where you can express yourself freely. um but I think, like, what they believe, um is that when you're with yourself, that's who you truly are. Like, only you will know what you truly are feeling and thinking throughout your daily lives. And I don't think it's possible for us to read others and understand who they really are inside. Like, I think a lot of people, they have it so it's in their lives, they have it so, like, let's say they do a sport or they do something outside of school that people know about, and they always have that side thing that they don't really. I think this is with a lot of people. They have a side thing they don't really talk about with anyone else because they have this other interest that they sometimes they can't feel like they can't feel like they can share that. And most people can share it, which is great, but I think a lot of people just have something on the side that they like to do with themselves. Like, let's say your friend is like, he does football, he does wrestling, he does track, or and he does baseball or golf. And let's say he's a sporty guy, but like on the side, you don't really know him personally. Like you don't know him at all, and you learn that on the side he's like, he goes to, oh no, sometimes people, what they show out, like they show out to be like douches or jocks, and really, and like some people don't know is like, oh, that person actually, they do charity events in their community, and they go to church, or I don't, they go to synagogue, and they're very religious, or they read books, and they um just in general stuff that no one would know about themselves, that's within themselves. Like, no one will know their likes and interests. Anyway, back to the topic. So basically, why I chose this book. First of all, I chose this book because it was my first book that I fully read. Like, not like first book, but it was my first philosophy book that I really liked. I didn't agree with any of the ideas, I would say. Most of the ideas are on. This book goes over like pro life and like the antenatal and the natal view on life. It also goes through like the concept of a good life and a bad life. Um, I'm pretty sure antenatal was here. Let me search this up real quick. So antenatalism is a philosophical belief that having children is unethical. So it's kind of like, how China has like a one child policy. It's sort of like that, but they still encourage life, of course. Um, but this is kind of what he believes in. David Benatar. He believes that it's a belief that having children is unethical because it subjects sentient beings to inevitable suffering. So basically, like, it makes like those who come into existence, like, no matter what, will have inevitable suffering and death. Which, through life, like, the only thing that is inevitable is death. And I remember saying this on the podcast as well with Mason, is that the reason why summer is so beautiful is because there's winter, I don't know what I learned. I don't know what I heard that from. That might have been like, I don't know. I think it was a TikTok edit. Life is like summer. It's like the only reason why life is beautiful is because there's death, and that's what this believes in. Other side, that's what I believe in. Sorry. What this believes in is that no matter what, there is a inevitable suffering death. But that's what's beautiful about it. I believe that's what's beautiful about it. That's why I want to stick with that. And then in the same way, one cannot like be lucky enough to be not born because they didn't never existed. So it's kind of like a joke in that sense, but he wants to go in depth on it anyway because it does bring out a big meaning in life. So basically, what David Benatar goes to is that all this stuff is inevitable, which I can agree is pretty true. But there's also like the stance of like happiness, like one who's not born doesn't experience happiness, so like it's kind of sad. But there's like nobody really missing, like there's nobody who misses that happiness because they don't exist. So it's not really like a guilt thing. Like if one were to abort a child before they are born, of course, um, and then some people they don't feel guilt about it because if they use their like if they're logical, they know that that child didn't exist to have a life, and like yeah, I guess that child didn't exist to have life, so there's no way that like it didn't get like depraved of happiness. But then a pronatalist view is that that child is like it's still existing in a sense of physical being. Um, I think and then let's say physically yes, mentally no. Humans start having a mental existence once they're like, you could technically say 0, but you could also say 3 or 4 when they gain a conscience. I don't know. I'm not gonna go in depth on that, how that works, because of when you grow up, you're like starting to gain conscious of like. I just wanted to break down his asymmetry. So his asymmetry is this concept that he made of is that pain. Let's say pain equals bad, and pleasure is good. If a person never exists, the absence of pain is good. Also, if a person never exists, the absence of pleasure is not bad because nobody is deprived of it. Because it didn't, there's not an existing person. And so he kind of, like, it sort of sounds like he contradicts himself here, but it makes a lot of sense what he's trying to say. If a person never exists, the absence of pain is good. In general, I don't want to be sick, that the absence of that is good. But if a person never exists, the absence of pleasure is not like it's not technically a bad thing, but it's like it's not bad. The absence of pleasure is not bad because no one is deprived of it. So they don't know what that is. Or they don't even exist. We can't really count it. Um I guess my final analysis, I guess like I think that we judge life on so there's here's the question is do we judge life by itself? Like, do we judge life by its best moments or its worst? I would say is that humans can be very negative and we when we judge by our worst moments, and if we go through life thinking about our worst moments, we're never going to improve. But if we think about worst moments and then actually use that to furthermore improve oneself, that's how we progress. And then if we look at best moments, if one were to live a life that is just all happiness and there's like no pain at all, I think that one would get bored. Okay, one would definitely like be lost in the soul, in the mind. Um, I also think that humans are definitely biased towards thinking life is better than it really is. Maybe I believe that. That's one of his concepts. I'm saying. Um, see, humans vary so much. Like there's so many different people. Like you can't like put it into statistics here. God damn, because like there's people. Let's say we put it into these categories like optimists and negative people, like Debbie Downers. Like it's all different because the most negative of people, they will bury themselves into a hole and stay there in order to sometimes in order to like get an escape from reality. And this is what people do when they people want to escape reality. You know, like boys play video games. It's because they want to escape from reality and be in their own little world. That's what I'm not saying. By the way, I'm not saying that women do this as well, but I think that when they're doing all their I mean, please do not diss on me here, but when they're doing their makeup or shopping, let's just say, I'm not saying this is for everyone. There are outliers within society, but when they're doing that, that's an escape from reality. It's an escape from the bad stuff. And I think all humans search for that. All humans search for that. But like, and then some, and then yeah, that's good if you want to escape that. But sometimes you're gonna have to be faced with the hard facts of like how reality is. I think people sometimes they escape reality and sometimes they just want to stay there. And I think that's a negative thing to have. I think one wants to bury themselves in a hole and then stay there forever away from everyone. And that's kind of what kills them. What kills them is that they don't try to change. They don't they only like if one were to escape like eventually that's hard to talk about because if humans, let's say I were to play video games for decades, there's always an outside source that would probably stop me or something, of course. But like if now if you could do the your favorite thing for a constant, like it's kind of like how if you were to bring a food it's like the question if you were to bring a food or item on an island on a deserted island forever, so you're on this island forever, what would you bring? I think if I were to bring video games, I would eventually get bored. Seriously, unless it's like if I had the choice to switch my video games in between, maybe I wouldn't get bored. But like eventually I would get bored of life. Just I'm not dissing on video games here. I love them. Um, but it's like saying once you I think humans they also look for change a lot. Most of them do. Some of them like the style where they just have an everyday process. I think that's unfulfilling to an extent. I think it's unfulfilling to an extent. I think it gets pretty boring. Um, I think after a while, it's like if I were to have a steak for 7 days straight, or like let's say for a while, I would eventually get bored of it and try to do something else. If I only had a steak for the rest of my life, I would have that steak, of course. But I think I would try to like change something. Like that's what we do. We literally do this. We make different forms of foods and we call it different things, even though it's the same thing. Let's say like I mean we know I can't really find an example here, but eventually you want to make new things. We always like society wants to do that. I mean, some people, let's say like, but trying new things out is also very risky. I think you need to take risk in order to live a fulfilling life. You need to take risks in order to improve yourself. That's just how it is. Like with creating this channel, I took a risk of embarrassment and like backlash from my friends, but like I don't really care. Like genuinely, they're not your friends if they just like don't like you for who you are. Like I haven't really even gotten negative stuff for this channel. I've gotten like one or two people who came out to me and thought this was stupid. And I just ignored it because it's something I love. I think a lot of people get kind of downgraded because of that, because they just take people's advice on ending it, ending the what they love. Like if one were to play football and then they were told that they're bad and they couldn't play, and that so they just give that up their passion. Let's say, it's a very sad thing. It's wasted love for the sport. It's wasted love for an activity or a hobby. I just think that's sad. Now, there's a morality of having children or not. It's like on that Titanic when women and kids were let off and men had to stay. I guess there is a morality point where like in society where we say that like oh well, it's kind of changed in the past decade. Sorry, in the past few years, I would say. Um, like let's say like you opening the door for a woman, that's gone down, dude. Chivalry is kind of decaying. I wanted to stay. I think it's a beautiful thing. Um, but most just play it off as cringe or kind of like a most people just play it off as cringe or something. I think it's bad that we kind of changed that standard. But then I think people, in a sense, I think people have gone too selfish when it comes to um relationships, and like I think people have gone way too selfish within relationships. Um, I'm saying late life relationships. Um, I think early life, let's say like right now, I think you kind of have to be selfish in order to find yourself. So, like, you can still be in a relationship, of course. There's nothing wrong with that. I just think to find yourself, you need to spend time alone or spend time doing stuff that makes you happy. That's how you find yourself. You know what's kind of weird about his concept is that, like, he finds that suffering is guaranteed, but happiness isn't. I find that kind of weird. I mean, I see why he would say that. There is bad things in the world that happen, and only someone can only receive so much harm to the point where they can't live with themselves, or so much like anger and stress that they can't live with themselves. And some people don't even experience that happiness. um I think happiness is just how we shape it. It's like how we decide. It's like our decision. I think everyone could be happy, but I think that people who don't want to because they find it as an excuse to not give it your all, you know, not try your hardest. It's okay to be like sad sometimes, of course, but you have to like get away from that. You have to eventually get out of that hole you're in, you know? For me, I think it's really how you portray the question of, are humans biased towards thinking life is better than it really is? I think it's really just because you can take some negatives and shape it and learn from it in order to shape who you are, and that's a good thing. And also you can take some of the good stuff and like you should celebrate your wins each time, but kind of like a Kobe mentality, you can celebrate the win, but only until you're done. Like one can never be satisfied with just one win. Like okay, depends on the situation. Like Kobe did, he won game 4, right? Of something, or I don't know. He was doing really well in the series, and he said that he wasn't, the job's not finished. Job's not finished. So that was kind of like, but once he got there, once you achieved your job, once you win in like, let's say like national championship, I don't know. That's just a random example. Like you are fulfilled. Like that's kind of what Aaron Donald did. Once he made it and everything, he was fulfilled and he felt like he was done. He left. He retired at the best moment in his career when he had achieved all that he thought. Um, which I think was really smart of him, but also like, yeah, it was kind of a random. I don't know. I didn't like it that much. I'm not even a Rams fan. I'm a Bears fan. I would say most people are glad they exist. I'm just saying in general. I think that's my take as well. I think most people are very happy and proud that they exist and they're allowed to exist. Um, I also think that love, friendship, and purpose are outweigh suffering by a ton. Like I think joy and happiness outweighs suffering by a mile. Um, and even if existence is a harm, that's why do so many people like still choose to continue living? I might do another video on that for why we live. I might do that with Mason. Um, if it's such like a bad harm, I'm against David here. And why do people just still choose to continue to live? Life is like, we find it is so complicated, but at the same time we need it and we prosper. That's what I think. Whew. All right. Ending question for you guys. Hold on. Also, I think his book is not even based off of like abortion and natalism. Honestly, it is a lot, but I think his true goal was to look into the moral and ethical decisions of bringing in new life, and the also he went into the concepts of pain and pleasure. I think it was more on that than like making a kid, or yeah, just yeah. Um, I think his kind of his goal his goal was to go over the moral and ethical points of pain and pleasure through life, and like why we continue, maybe. So I have an ending question for you guys. Comment down below what you think about this. What are your do you oh yeah, I like this one a lot. Is do you look at your best moments in life, you relatively like more than your negative moments, or do you think you look at your negative moments more? And in which way do you do that? What's different about this from food reviews is I like the topic more, and I actually is interest. I actually am interested into this stuff much more than eating food and reviewing it. I found that kind of boring after a while. I might take it back. I might bring it back here and do a mini session through each video of a food review, but highly unlikely. Just so you know, highly unlikely. Unlikely. Adios, amigos.